Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Now, as some of you may know, I work at the Natural History Museum. And about a year ago, I was doing something with a shark, which was just what I was up to. And I was looking at the associated paperwork, and I saw a device that was listed accompanying the shark, which was a Snodgrass nathodynamometer. And I thought, what an interesting sentence. Snodgrass nathodynamometer. Has anyone heard of a Snodgrass nathodynamometer before? You actually, right, I wasn't expecting that to be the answer. And it's essentially a tool which is used to measure the strength of a shark's bite. And it's only been successfully deployed on 3 sharks, and they're all of the safe ones, not the really big, unsafe ones. And I thought, that's quite a cute story. Like, it's kind of science for science's sake. You know, the mad scientists that I work with have invented a thing that measures the force of a shark's bite. What actual utility does that have? I don't know, but it's just a cute story. And it came up again a few weeks ago, and I thought, I'm actually going to research who this Snodgrass person was, because often devices are named after their inventor, and this is categorically the case. Here, we see Professor John Snodgrass. Look at this little wry smile here, right? He's actually just how I imagined him, quite austere, but clearly a bit playful. And this is a description of the Snodgrass nathodynamometer, a soft aluminium core in the form of a cylinder. Over the top are placed 4 curved sheets of steel wrapped in mackerel. You need the shark to bite it, don't you? These sorts of everything. And I was thinking, what utility does this have? And I actually couldn't find much about this man. And I started doing a bit of independent research in the library, and this is kind of like a world first. This is my expose on Professor John Snodgrass. And the reason why it ties in with this speech project is that you must be careful when you idolize a funny story, because what you may find out might be slightly alarming. Now, I couldn't find anything out about him, but I looked up his co-author, who was a person called Perry Webster Gilbert, who died in the 90s. This was in 1978, this was a review of all of his work. And this, in 1967, a shark bite meter with J.M. Snodgrass in sharks, skates and rays. I'm still looking for that paper, and that's where we get the description of the device. And so that is proof that in 1967, a paper was presented, authored by Perry and Snodgrass. And that's really where we leave the Snodgrass nathodynamometer over here, and we jump straight into Project Headgear. Now, Project Headgear was Snodgrass's attempt to turn sharks into bomb delivery systems. Now, John Snodgrass was a marine engineer come biologist, which basically meant he really liked blowing stuff up underwater. That's kind of what that means. He was a serving scientist in the Second World War. He was posted on a ship that didn't really do too much. It was positioned around Hawaii and Cuba. It was a surveillance ship. A lot of scientists at that time had to in some way post themselves to the military to kind of carry on doing their thing. He then, after the war, we're talking about the 60s, 70s, he then got quite involved in this idea of recruiting sharks. And I'm a cetaceans man. I work with whales, dolphins and porpoises, and I thought, you know, dolphins are far easier to kind of tame and sort of operate with, and actually the US and the Russian military are using dolphins now. But he's answered this in great length. There are 2 pages in his report, in Project Headgear, about why sharks are the better choice. Man can intellectually dominate a shark, something he finds much harder to do with a porpoise. There are 2 things I take issue with here, 2 things. One is that this is intellectual domination. Project Headgear is intellectual domination. The other thing is that he's clearly tried to do it with a porpoise and failed, and he's taken it very personally. The ego of the greats is unparalleled. Now, he worked with this in Hawaii. He did Project Headgear for many, many years, and the idea is that Project Headgear was a helmet that the shark would wear, and it would electrocute the shark until the shark went in the right directions. So you'd use Pavlovian conditioning to get the shark to attack a ship, a submarine, a dinghy, whatever it was, and then the shark would blow up, and it would detonate. And after a year of development, the Snodgrass Headgear was ready for field testing, and a lemon shark was recruited. Bring me the lemon shark. So recruited is a strong word when you're talking about the cartilaginous fish known as a shark. You can't really sign them on, they don't really have sort of members' rates, there's no pension, but the lemon shark was indeed recruited and the headgear was tried. The fourth and final headgear system was field tested in 1972. 9 years, this took 9 years, almost a decade after the project commenced. Everything at last seemed to be working, except the sharks. The sharks, as many of you may know, sharks respond to, they are very electric animals. All of their sensing and the way they hunt is actually performed around electricity. So the shark wearing a big electric sort of Snodgrass helmet was just a bit confused. It wasn't doing anything, but it was wearing this ridiculous huge helmet, which has taken 4 or 5 iterations to complete. Now, this is the other thing. So that was, let's go back, that was in 1972. This is a longer one. Snodgrass began work developing an unmanned instrument package, including sensors that could take continuous measurements at sea and could be used in large-scale studies of marine pollution. Snodgrass participated in the first meeting of the Integrated Global Ocean Station System, IGOS, in 1969. So 3 years before, he was 6 years into the Snodgrass electric shark suicide bomb system, Snodgrass is actually developing something that sounds quite good. So you've got 2 options as a sort of mad genius professor. Option 1, develop an intercontinental, interoceanic pollution detection system. Option 2, the suicide shark. The shark military weapon, and he went for option 2. I cannot believe this. And I was reading these 2 research papers, putting them side by side, and this is the problem with idolising some of your heroes in the funny story. When you learn out what they actually were doing, sometimes the whole story can get a bit more complicated. But we, as a story, I always found the Snodgrass naphtho dynamometer very flirtatiously funny. It's like, oh, science for science's sake. The minute you start drilling into the man, things get far more complex and difficult, and it is the job. So there were 3 years where any member of Snodgrass's staff could have gone, John, why don't you develop the intercontinental, interoceanic pollution detection system that will surely be useful for decades in the future, rather than blowing up sharks? And no one did. So remember, if you work for a mad genius, do speak up, even if you're their mentee or you find their stories funny. They need controlling. Thank you very much.